As a person on the autism spectrum, I often struggle a lot with social events, with strangers outside of my home. Crowds, clashing sources of sensory information, unclear social rules, and people I know nothing about all add up to create situations that I find really overwhelming and difficult. The exception to that rule is going to live music concerts. For as long as I can remember, live music has been a rare example of a loud, crowded, intense social event that I can not only tolerate, but actively love. There are understood rules about order of arrival and your resulting position in the crowd. The sensory information is loud enough to drown out any background noise and be all-consuming. Everyone there has a safety topic of interest in common, and if you already know the band you're going to see, then everything that happens during the show is likely to feature a degree of predictability that's safe and comforting. If I go and see a band that I love play, I can talk to people around me about my favourite songs, confident in the knowledge that they share that interest. I can sing along with songs I know word for word, and I can anchor myself to something familiar in the chaos of a live crowd. In all the jumping and screams, there's something I can predict. Music I can't help but focus on to carry me through. There are days where my symptoms prevent me from engaging with live music, but on the whole, they're a real ray of light for me. Going and seeing live bands perform was, prior to the pandemic, one of the only real hobbies I have that really encouraged me to go out and meet new people. It was a centre point of my social calendar. Every few months I'd go and see a band play live, I'd camp out 12 hours before the show to get a great spot, make friends in the queue, secure myself front and centre on the barrier, and just lose myself to the music for a few hours. Obviously, the last 2 years have not been a great time to be a fan of live music. That part of my routine fell away pretty fast, and it still seems like it's struggling to come back. We're kind of at the point where live music is returning, but it's hit and miss still. As the 2-year anniversary of the UK entering its first lockdown has come and gone, I found myself really missing the experience of going and watching live music performances. I've got a few gigs coming up and I'm excited for them to come back, but I've really struggled in their absence. I was meant to see my all-time favourite band, My Chemical Romance, play a reunion show after a decade-plus long break from performing in the summer of 2020. That show was pushed back to the summer of 2021 and now the summer of 2022, and during that wait I really struggled and I wanted to try and find some way to recapture the magic of live music from home as best I could. My first plan, understandably, was to go on YouTube and try and find some good quality live performance recordings of my favourite bands. Phone camera, video and audio quality has improved a lot in the last few years, and it's pretty easy to find a high-quality camera recording of most bands you enjoy performing, but for me, watching those bands perform on a flat screen didn't capture the energy that I missed from live performances. The feeling that you were one of many, a sea of faces, all anonymous, but all here for the same thing, to enjoy the music that you love. Watching a concert on my PC screen, I didn't feel like I was in the room with other people. When the performers on stage told the crowd to raise their hands or to wave back and forth, there was no way I was going to join in. The disconnect between reality and the scene I was watching was just too great. As someone diagnosed with ADHD, I also find watching a live performance on a screen is just not immersive enough to discourage me from multitasking. At a real live show, one of the key things I love is getting truly lost in a performance, so that the world around you just feels like it's fading away. There's no need to check your emails or doom scroll on Twitter. Messages can wait a little bit to get a response. I want to be focused on just the performance, and with a performance on a flat screen, I inevitably find my mind wandering, looking for other things to occupy that part of my brain. And so, I picked up my Oculus Quest VR headset and spent a day in the world of VR concerts. So, when it comes to VR concerts, there's not a lot of currently existing content designed to actually be viewed in true VR. For most bands, what you're going to need to do is play around with a 2D video and make it as convincingly immersive as possible. Open YouTube TV on your VR headset, find a good concert recording, curve your virtual screen, make it as large as possible, then bring it a little closer to yourself than the default viewing distance. It's not true VR, but you can get it pretty darn close. Sure, if you look too far up on either side, you'll see the edges of the video as hard cut-off lines, but while facing your head mostly forward, it's possible to get most of the edges of the screen out of view. And even if you do see the edges of your world, it becomes pretty easy to tune them out once you let yourself get into the performance. As I was feeling pretty bummed out about the fact that I was having to wait so long to see MCR play in the UK again, I ended up watching a fan recording of the band's January 2020 LA reunion show this way, and the effect did a lot to really draw me in. I know it's going to sound a bit ridiculous, but I let myself raise my hands in the air and rock out as I watched. I knew it wasn't real, but it was close enough for me to not feel foolish getting really into the performance. Moving around and jamming out helped. I felt some of that magic I'd been missing. I stayed in the headset for the full performance, never once taking a break to check my phone, and I got to feel a glimpse of a show that I'd been gutted about the wait to see. Now, if you're lucky, you might be able to find an actual VR concert recording of some shows online, depending on the artist. One of my favourite performers, a speed rapper named Watsky, uploaded to YouTube in May 2019 a full concert recording of one of his live shows. While it's not a 360-degree recording, there's an area behind the viewer they didn't bother to record which fades into an empty virtual space, this show had a much greater sense of physical presence in the room, a better viewing angle, and was built in a way that really sold the illusion of being in the room with the crowd. Obviously, VR headsets are not widely available, you need a pricey headset to enjoy them, and they're unlikely to replace the experience of actual live music for me, but over a couple of years without live shows to attend, taking the time to enjoy a few hours of live music with no distractions and a sense of place in a crowd scratched an itch that I really needed to scratch. I've desperately missed live music, but VR really helped.